Seulles was bombed on the 7th of June by 18 bombers of the RAF. This caused the first civilian casualties. The British plans were to pass through Seulles on the way to taking Villers-Bocage with a view to encircling Caen. Plans often don't account for what the enemy might be planning. On the 6th, the only Panthers in the area were the 21st Panzer Division. On the 7th, the 12th SS moved in and tackled the Canadians around Audrieu. The Panzer Lehr were next to move in from the south towards Bayeux. They were grouping around Seulles with elements of the 12th SS to launch an attack on Bayeux. The Abteilung of the Hitler Youth were moving from Puteaux through Audrieu towards Tilly to regroup along minor roads to avoid the Yabos or the fighter bombers. But they still got attacked. Their machine guns did nothing against these planes. They even had an Italian flak gun. You could only fire one round at a time. At Audrieu, the SS noted they captured 20 prisoners. Near Créteau, a British armoured car destroyed 2 German trucks. A German officer tried to destroy it with a Panzerfaust but missed, and the British armoured car disappeared. In what became a long drawn-out combat, Hill 103 became the base for British actions during this time. During the night of the 8th, the Sherwood Rangers held Hill 103, which is just south of Audrieu, about a mile over there. It was on the same day that 24 Canadians and 2 British soldiers were assassinated by the SS in the grounds of the Chateau of Audrieu. On other days, more soldiers were assassinated. The chateau is visible just behind the memorial. Two officers of the Sherwoods went into St Pierre, which is just down there towards Tilly. They came back to report that St Pierre was held by the Germans. Brigadier Crackcroft of the 8th Armoured decided they needed reinforcements. So the 8th Durham Light Infantry, they were near Bayeux, they went to St Léger, which is also near Bayeux, met up with the tanks of the 24th Lancers, and using bicycles they followed them down to Hill 103. On the night of the 9th, the 4th, 7th Dragoon Guards tanks arrived on Hill 103 as well. It was on the 8th that the Panzer Lehr had their objective changed from an attack towards the coast to attacking from Seulles towards Bayeux. The 8th Armoured objective was Tessy-Bretel feature, codename Ooze, after the river. They would first take St Pierre, and when the lead troops reached D13, they would fire a flare to indicate the follow-up troops to follow. Companies C and D of the 8th DLI set out from Hill 103 at 17:45 on the 9th. Firing was light at first, but when they reached the outskirts, 5 officers soon became casualties. The D13 was reached, and the flare sent up. Major Dunn came into town and set up his HQ in the Maison des Trois Cheminées. The Company C had suffered heavy casualties, but they stayed by the church because that was the area they'd captured. And the tanks leaguered near HQ. Hill 103 is just there, you can see the water tower. The bridge across the river Seulles between St Pierre and Seulles was intact, but still held by the Germans. And the Germans still held Seulles. On the 10th, the Germans counterattacked from Tilly and from the east, causing heavy casualties among Durham Light Infantry. Several Shermans of C Squadron were lost. Guns of the 288 anti-tank were present. They were told to pull out by the infantry commander. Sergeant Dunn refused to leave. With his Lehr, they knocked out the nearest Panzer they could see. Later he moved forward to reconnoitre, then advanced the gun to destroy more tanks. He was awarded the DCM for his actions. The other side of the village, Sergeant Seaton manoeuvred his gun to take on Panthers. He was wounded and had to leave the gun, but he went back later and forced another tank to retreat. During the battle, Lieutenant Lodge was already wounded and still moving from garden to garden, picking off Germans he met. As he was getting too weak to move fast from the loss of blood, he found a place in an upstairs window to snipe from. He was evacuated to be treated. Most of the troops still in town rallied around the HQ at the Maison des Trois Cheminées. HQ personnel and gunners with no artillery fighting as infantry. Tanks of the A and B squadrons of the 24th Lancers left Hill 103 and came to assist. The first tank into town was knocked out, but that blocked the road for any Panthers. By 11:30 the attack was weakened. By mid-afternoon the attack was repulsed. During the action to the east, Ulrich Dietrich was gunner in Stürmer's Panther. His gun was pointing to 11 o'clock. They were hitting the turret at 1 o'clock. He traversed to 1 o'clock and they were hit again. He wondered why Stürmer said nothing. He looked and saw that he was dead, his chest ripped open. Due to the poor visibility, Dietrich went out the rear hatch and sat on the hull next to the driver. Hayes was also out, standing to the right of the turret. He shouted to him to go back in, but he wouldn't. Another shell hit them and one of Hayes' legs was taken off. Now, to deter the Germans from counterattacking again, the whole area was pounded by artillery and the cruisers, the Orion and the Argonaut. They fired from the sea. They were 15 miles away. Tanks of the Sherwood Rangers came to reinforce the Lancers. By evening, things had calmed down enough for a hot meal to be brought down from Hill 103 to HQ at the Maison des Trois Cheminées. That was a great boost to the morale of the troops. The morning of the 11th brought shelling again from the Germans. One shell killed 3 Sherwood officers and wounded another. Now, to support the projected attack of the 8th Armoured Brigade, the 6 Green Howards were sent to attack Hill 102 to the east. Now, that included Stanley Hollis, who won the Victoria Cross on D-Day, and he made another heroic attack there, but the general attack failed and Hill 102 wasn't taken till the 25th of June. On the 14th, the tanks of the Sherwood Rangers pulled back to Bayeux to replenish, and the troops pulled back from Hill 103, and Seulles was bombed again. On the same day, tanks of the 4th Royal Dragoon Guards went into Langevre. They were attacked by Panthers. The Sgt Harris, in a Firefly of course, knocked out 5 Panthers. 5 shells, 5 Panthers. A Sherman was knocked out by the church. This action merits a video by itself. On the 18th, the 50th Division mounted an attack against Tilly, and in the night of the 18th, morning of the 19th, the Germans pulled out. So Tilly was taken. But in the following week, it was taken and retaken 23 times. So on the 25th, you might say Tilly-sur-Seulles was liberated, but that's a bit of a misnomer. There's only 2 houses left, and this aerial photo was taken in the 1950s, and there's still not really a town here. Reconstructed towns always have the same style: concrete houses faced off with stone. After the 19th, the situation was so confused that a Panther tank returning to Fontenay was fired at by a Panzerfaust but the firing mechanism jammed. The soldiers thought it was a captured Panther used by the British. Many of the men killed in the attack on Seulles buried here. Thanks for watching to the end. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, make a like, share, make comments, or even support through Patreon or PayPal. See you soon.